Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of Jig Retro, where we're going to be taking a look at bonus full games that are unlockable in other games that you purchase. I find it so awesome to discover these amazing secrets. There's absolutely nothing better than picking up one retro video game and finding out that you've potentially got one or even many more titles on the same disc. Some of the games on this list I have specifically purchased because I know about the unlockables. This video won't include the obvious compilation video games. If you enjoy this content, then please show a bit of support for this humble little channel by liking, sharing and subscribing, and possibly even forwarding this on to some of your friends. I'm going to start this video off with my personal first game that I ever found an unlockable game within, with Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure for the Sega Mega Drive. I remember finding this cheat in a magazine or even something like the game show of Games Master. At the title screen, press down and then the A button 26 times and then press down again. I do remember genuinely enjoying playing the original Atari Activision classic Pitfall in this manner, and I actually spent a fair amount of time playing it compared to the main game. Now admittedly, I don't know the technical specifics on how this or any of the bonus games on this list perform compared to the originals on original hardware, but I can speak on the fun and playability factor, and this was a fantastic discovery for me. Now for the best value game in my collection due to its unlockables, the Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles on the PSP. Now as far as goes the bulk of the game, it's not the most extravagant experience, but it is a lot of fun and the first time a physical form of Rondo of Blood made its way west. It's a PlayStation 2 style graphic 2.5D reimagining of the original, but it's the stunning unlockables which is the big seller here. Two very rare and expensive games in both Castlevania Symphony of the Night and the Japanese exclusive for the PC Engine Castlevania Rondo of Blood, all translated in English and also re-scripted and voice acted in Symphony's case. This was an immediate purchase for me on discovering these unbelievable unlockables. Symphony of the Night is accessible in Stage 3 apostrophe. Note that this is the alternate to Stage 3. And Rondo of Blood is found in Stage 4. It's a little convoluted where to exactly find these unlockables, but a quick Google should set you right. In Metroid Zero Mission for the Game Boy Advance, once you have completed the main game, which I highly recommend to anyone as this is a remake of the original Metroid and a phenomenal experience in its own right, will unlock the NES Classic and the first game in the series. Funnily enough, after playing this remake, you won't actually want to go back and play the original, but it is an interesting look back at the series' roots and a fantastic unlockable nonetheless. Next is a phenomenal game in its own right in Panzer Dragoon Orta, and it has a brilliant unlockable to boot. This one's for the original Xbox and I find it super impressive that they fitted another full game from just a generation before on the same disc. The original Panzer Dragoon for the Sega Saturn. Now admittedly I haven't personally unlocked this game yet as it involves beating the game, which I just haven't got round to, but I'm really pleased to know that this classic is available here nonetheless. In a similarly impressive vein, we have Tekken 5 for the PlayStation 2. This has 4 big retro games as unlockables in the form of Tekken 1, 2 and 3. Now admittedly they're not the full console conversions that we saw on the PS1, but the arcade versions instead. They play great and it is mighty good value. Not only that, but it has the 1991 arcade rail space shooter Starblade as an in-game unlockable. What a stunning lineup. Now for a couple of games that literally have a separate disc with a bonus game on it. The first is Ridge Racer Type 4 for the PlayStation 1. During the research for this sequel, the development team were pushing the limits of the original PlayStation to see if they could get 60 frames per second for the next game in the series. These modifications were added to the original game to test the theory, and rather than let that hard work go to waste, they released this impressive overhaul to the original title as a bonus disc, titled Ridge Racer High Spec. Other features include improved graphics and DualShock capability. The negative is that on the whole there are only 1 or 2 other racers on the track against you. I guess this is where they worked out that 60 frames per second was unattainable for Ridge Racer Type 4. A splendid bonus game though in my opinion, despite its shortcomings. Quake 4 also has a fantastic bonus disc in the form of Quake 2, a HD remastering. This is absolutely sublime and runs and visually looks so great that it would make the PC gamers of the past green with envy. This is such a great bonus disc and is a high recommendation. It is a port of the original game and they really went above and beyond to give us a super polished version as a bonus. It does make sense as Quake 4 is a direct sequel to Quake 2, but still very generous nonetheless. Nowadays it would be released as a full price game a year before the sequel's release. Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3 for the Nintendo GameCube is probably slightly less thought of fondly compared to Rogue Squadron 2 because that game has the lion's share of the quality dogfights from the movies. This game is still great in its own right, but the one thing that helps it become a more valuable addition to the game collection is in its unlockables, with all 3 Atari classic arcade Star Wars games, including the Vectrex style Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, and the isometric style of Return of the Jedi. I personally have a huge soft spot for the original arcade game especially, as I remember me and my brother playing it whenever we saw it out in the wild, when we were kids. Simply go to the options, passcodes, and then type 2 separate codes for each game. The 2 for Star Wars Arcade are RTJPFC!G and Time Warp. These 2 are for Empire Strikes Back, !H!F, $HXS, and Cool Stuff with just 1 F. And these 2 are for Return of the Jedi, !, ATH, !RD, and Game, Yes. Then back to options, special features and arcade.
Shield doors must be closed. I need him. Wait for me!
WarioWare Inc. for the Game Boy Advance has a nice little unlockable in the form of Dr. Mario. This time, for obvious reasons, it's called Dr. Wario, which is unlocked in the game by simply scoring 20 on Jimmy T's first stage. As far as I can tell, it's a pretty complete version of the game, minus 2-player, and a slightly smaller playing field, making it a bit easier to beat each stage. Splatterhouse for the Xbox 360 is a pretty fun but all in all pretty mediocre game really. But all the unlockables make this a good little purchase for the collection. As you progress through the game, you eventually unlock the original arcade game Splatterhouse, as well as the Sega Mega Drive sequels of Splatterhouse 2 and 3. It's great value for money if you want these games in your collection, as they can be pretty pricey. Finally, we have Shenmue 1 and 2, and I don't think it's really any great secret that in this open world title you have access to classic arcade games. In a really cool move by Sega, they added a few classics of their own into the arcades for you to enjoy. This series has great conversions of Afterburner, Hang On, Space Harrier and Outrun. This is fantastic because there are surprisingly little arcade accurate versions of these games available. So there you have it. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and actually researching it has led me to buy a couple of these titles for my collection. I think unfortunately unlockables of this nature are really a thing of the past, because there is just too much cheddar to be made from having these games sold separately. If you know of any more bonus video games hidden within games, then please let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be really excited to do a follow-up episode to this one. Anyway, until next time, much love, please look after yourselves and each other and get your geek on with Jig Retro.